Okay,
All
and
right.
5, 4, 3, 2. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Grief Uncensored this week. We got episode 7. I'm Yako.
I'm Julia.
And today we have Max here. You can't if you can see him, you can say hello to the beautiful
Maximilian
here. This episode's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be a Q&A.
Yeah, it's a little fun Q&A, a little get to know us a little bit better.
Yeah, we really haven't we've, briefly scratched the topic of, or surface of, like, things about us throughout the topics that we mentioned throughout the past 6 weeks, but, only the first episode is really about our story entirely. And yeah, there's just a lot of things that people have asked us that we are going to dive into a little bit further in this episode. It's just going to be an opportunity for us to tell you a little bit more about us so you can get to know us and feel a little bit more connected.
Yeah. Just a couple of topics that we haven't discussed yet in our previous episodes, or smaller topics that aren't going to get a full episode. So thank you to everyone who wrote in, and we're really excited to answer some questions and then just kind of talk.
Yes.
Like we said in our previous episode, we really want to create like a community, a back and forth, and more like a friendship with you guys, our followers and community members. So we hope that this helps us get to know you and you guys get to know us.
Yes, and also this week we got the new mic.
Actually, this week we have it.
Yeah, so if we sound better, then you know why. Yeah, well...
You'll hear every little thing, every little bird, every Max snoring.
Yes, so hopefully Max won't be snoring too loud. But yeah. I guess we'll get started.
Right into it. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
All right, so... the first question we got is, what are some good resources for young adults grieving? Seems to be scarce. That is absolutely 100% true. They are scarce as fuck.
Part of the reason why we started the podcast.
Exactly. We literally started it because we felt like there were not a lot of resources for specifically young people.
Yeah, like there's a lot of grieving resources in general, but it's different from when you're 40 or, I don't know, when you're just a little bit older and grieving a loss is different from when you're 20 or even younger than that, grieving a huge loss like this.
Absolutely. We recognize that there's no right time to lose somebody.
Right.
But there is a specific type of grief that comes along with being in your 20s or being even teenage grief.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, what we experience. So that is... really the community that we feel most in common with. But as far as resources go, I mean, do you have any that come to mind? I think for me, like, I first found refuge in grief, which was Megan Devine's, which we talked about her a lot.
She's not specifically for young people.
She's not specifically for young people,
but she's a great grieving resource in general.
Yes, definitely.
Refuge in grief. We always mention Megan. Her name is Megan Devine, and she's like a grief counselor or like a professional grief. Oh my god, Max is snoring. Oh yeah, but yeah, she's really amazing. She talks a lot about a lot of the topics that we touched upon in our previous episodes, and she just has been a really huge part in like normalizing grief and just making it feel like a normal,
she makes you feel really seen. Like
she makes you feel validated and everything.
She talks about everything all the time on her Instagram, like all these topics that we try and touch on. Like she has so much information
and she's so eloquently spoken. She also has her own podcast too. If you're interested in listening to her podcast or more grief podcasts, I would definitely recommend checking hers out.
And she has a book and a workbook. I have the journal.
Oh yeah, the workbook
I mean, that's another resource. Like the grief journals that are out there. I mean, I'm sure there's more, but Megan Devine does have one, and they're like prompts, but they're not just writing. There's also like coloring pages and questions, activities, like cutouts, and like honestly, if I'm being honest, like I've only done a couple pages because that's like what my like journey has allowed. It is like, I already do this podcast, which opens up all of my wounds all the time, every day. And then, like, to take more time out of my day to write it. But it is something that I'm working towards doing more in my day.
Yeah, I definitely would like to do that too, but you know, of course,
Yeah.
to each their own. We'll get there one day. Right now, we're not there yet.
Everyone is different. Like, some people don't, sit with their grief all the time.
Right.
And most people don't sit with their grief all the time. I mean, I feel like we do a lot because we host a whole show about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, we have lives to live. Life doesn't stop.
Yes.
So, taking that specific time out of your day or week to sit and write about it or think about it, meditate on it, whatever it may be. Like,
Right.
those journals are a good resource, along with, you could just journal,
Right.
On a piece of paper,
Yeah.
your feelings out.
Also, I do want to point out that if you are in a university of some sort, or if you're in school, I would look into some free resources that they offer, because we had, like we mentioned in the last episode, we had one called Living with Loss, which is a free like group therapy situation that our school put on for us for people who are going through something similar. So I would definitely look into like some of the free health resources that your school might offer. If you're attending a university, you're paying money, so you might as well reap the benefits by taking advantage of these things while you still can.
Yeah.
Because we were only able to take advantage of it for one semester, and you know what? If we had it for more, we would have definitely.
We always talk about how we miss our Living with Loss group,
Right?
Because it was really something special to have everyone your age or right around your age, and being students. We're all going through the same exams and all this stuff, and we have such similar stories and stressors. And those were amazing. And even if you aren't in university anymore, there's still some groups that you can join.
Yeah.
Like Facebook groups, for instance.
Right.
But speaking of that, we started our own Facebook group for our little community here. And it will be linked in our description here.
Yes, please join. We definitely want, like we said before, like we just want to hear more of you guys and us, like having a more direct line of communication, and this is just the way to do that, so we all feel a little bit less alone, a little bit more heard. There's just certain things that you can't say to people all the time without feeling completely unhinged or just like making people feel uncomfortable. But this is going to be the place for you to say anything, everything, all of it.
Exactly. You can really use it for whatever you want. We're definitely going to write posts and share some stories and anecdotes. You can talk directly about your person. You can talk about your grief and your experience.
Yeah, resources
or you
that
don't have to
helped
write
you.
it all, and you can just be on it and read
just,
other people's and just take it all in.
Yeah.
And meet friends, too, on it. Like, honestly, meeting other grieving people around your age or who are going through
Similar experiences.
going through the same things as you have such a special connection. And like, even between me and Yako, like, I've had a friendship that I've never had anything like this before. Like, it is something where it's so vulnerable, and it's so easy to be able to talk about things that with your other friends who aren't grieving or don't understand, you just can't say it, or you feel weird. It's a really special connection, and it also could be a little hard too, because witnessing other people's grief is difficult.
Oh, yeah.
When you're also grieving.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, just because you're grieving doesn't mean you always have the right things to say in response to other people's grief.
Totally.
So, yeah, there are definitely moments where we're like, ooh.
Totally. But special nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, just being able to witness someone else's grief is sometimes enough, because you're sitting there and listening, and you're witnessing it. You're not helping create you're not like trying to help. You're just there and witnessing it, and as a friend, like, that's enough, because we know that there's nothing I could do to take your pain away, and vice versa.
There's nothing I could say or do to take the pain away.
Exactly.
So yeah,
just
I think we
having a friend
that.
witness your grief and be comfortable with it, and not like go home and be like, oh my god, that was like crazy, but it is what it is, and it's really special.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that pretty much answers it.
Yeah, that pretty much answers the first question.
Resources, yeah.
And also I think that our the group chat that we're gonna, or the group chat page, whatever, that we're gonna create is gonna be a great place for people to share other resources that have helped them.
Definitely,
and
I hope
that might open up the doors for us to gain more insight on resources that can help young people too. Because right now, we're in the same boat as you. We think it's scarce and there's not enough. So, you know, with everybody who comes together, there might be a good foundation of what that might look like.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our next question is, what are your thoughts on angel numbers, potential signs you might get from your loved one?
Ooh, this is a good one.
Yeah, this is a good one. We do want to dive really deep into angel numbers, like signs, just the world outside of the physical dimension, the spiritual world, afterlife, mediumship, all things like that. We do want to do a whole episode on that, so we will dive further into that on that episode. But for now, we can just talk about angel numbers. For me, I saw 555 a lot. That was really meaningful to me because I just kept seeing it all the time, and then when I looked it up on Google, it was just like it signified like a change in your life that's coming, and I was like, damn, I mean, I guess this is a fucking huge change, but yeah, I did keep seeing 555 a lot. I saw like his birthday a lot. Yeah, those are just like some of the ones that I kept seeing, and I was like, this is definitely a sign.
Totally. I think before the accident, I did see angel numbers like a good amount, and seeing synchronicities is special because it feels like it means something. And before it's just like, oh, I'm on the right path, or I'm doing something right because I'm seeing angel numbers, you know. But after the loss, you start to think that everything is like a sign from them, or you're trying to like make sense out of why I keep seeing 555 or 333. And honestly, like, I see all numbers all the time. I don't think I see, like, one a lot other than 1111. But, I mean, for me, I see 111 or 1111 all the time. My mom was born on November 11th. So, obviously, 1111 is so special, and I'm going to get a tattoo of it. And, I mean, she also died on December 11th, so that's 12/11, but 11 nonetheless.
Still 11, yeah.
So I think definitely that one has a big impact. Also, there's one website that every article for every number was written on November 11th. Yeah. So I don't know, and it does kind of seem like a sign, you know, like I think some people will be like, oh, you're trying to make everything look like a sign.
You're reading too
or
into
like,
it.
yeah, like you see a butterfly and it's like, oh my god, my mom's sending me a thing. But to somebody else, it's like, okay,
no, that's
I see
my
a
mom.
butterfly. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot to say on this topic.
For sure.
I mean, there's so much to say about
which is why
spirituality and all this stuff, but that will definitely be a
whole episode.
Yeah, an episode soon. Signs from your loved one and stuff.
Exactly.
And honestly, I want to hear like other people's.
Yeah, I
signs
definitely want to hear. Because honestly, it's easy to say that because after a loss, you're so in a vulnerable state, you are just so desperate to like want to hear from them and hear signs from them or see signs from them. So
oh my God,
it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, like you're reading too into it, or of course this person might think this is a sign, but I don't know. There is some things are just too weird to be a coincidence.
Totally,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's definitely true.
So yeah, that answers that one. Next question. Are there some safe shows that aren't triggering for you? Because we talked a lot about triggering shows. And yeah.
I mean, like I said in that episode, what episode was that, like 5 or something?
Yeah, I think it was 5.
Oh yeah, because it was anxiety. Since love and loss is something that everyone on planet Earth experiences as a human being, there's like no really 100% safe places to not witness that.
Exactly.
And like there's gonna be shows where they have some type of, you know, scene that makes you feel sad, like whether it's, you know, somebody actually passing away in the show, or whether it's just like a wedding is happening in the show and you're sad because your parent or your loved one's not going to be at that wedding, you know, like there's going to be triggers everywhere. Or whether it's just like
depicting like a good mother-daughter relationship or, you know, just something like that.
Honestly, guys, there's triggers everywhere, and like, of course we know that we can't really run away from them.
Right.
Other than steering clear of the shows that you know that are going to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But we talk about this a lot, how like grieving people have like certain safe shows that like what is it called, like there's like a word for it, I think.
Comfort
show, yeah. Obviously, my comfort show is Parks and Rec. I literally have watched it every single night.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, like, for the past 15 months. Because, I don't know, I just love it, and, like, it's just, like, my kind of safe show.
It's a good show.
It's just, like, a show you fall asleep to, and...
Yeah,
I mean...
For me, I've been watching New Girl. That definitely isn't, like, my number one safe show, but it's just all my other safe shows got taken off Netflix, so I'm using New Girl right now. And like I said in that episode 5, like, I was literally watching New Girl, and then Nick's dad died, so there are triggers even within your safe show sometimes.
Yeah, but you're ready for them because you know they're gonna happen.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Is like when you have seen a show so many times, you know exactly what episode or like what's gonna happen, or so you kind of can like brace yourself and / avoid it in a way. You know.
I think a lot of people have those comfort shows that they just
sure.
watch all the time, no matter how many times they've seen it.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to admit out loud how many times I've seen all the way through Parks and Rec, all 7 seasons.
Yeah, I definitely love Parks and Rec too, and recently she gave me her Peacock streaming service, so I've been back on my Parks and Rec flow. It's been great. It's been really good for my mental health. And yeah, sorry that Max keeps snoring, but it's just the vibe for this
It's just
episode.
the vibe today. I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, we definitely want to hear some more of your guys' favorite show or safe shows, because we want some more shows.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll ever stop watching Parks and Rec every day, but maybe one day I'll finally move on from it.
Yeah.
All right, next question here. How has the podcast impacted your own grief journeys? How has meeting each other impacted your journey? Okay, that's like a big question.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the first part.
Okay.
The podcast came from an off the whim like idea. Like it wasn't even like a sit down like I have an idea that we should start a podcast together.
It was like a brief text like we should do a podcast.
Yeah,
and
because
we took it seriously.
It kind of started from us looking for podcasts that we related to, and they were, pretty sparse. And we were kind of joking that we might start one, and then one day
we ordered mics.
One day we were just like ordering mics. Like I don't even know. Like it's kind of a blur, but
it all happened so fast. I feel like we just were like, let's do it. Then we started brainstorming names, and then we bought mics.
Yeah, after we bought mics, like there was just one day we were hanging out, and I was like, yeah, the mics came in, and like I think you came over, and we were like, all right, let's just record. Like let's just record the first episode. Like I don't remember like planning to do it the day, but maybe I'm just remembering it wrong.
No, I think we definitely did plan it, but I don't know. It's all such a blur. It's grief brain.
Yeah, it's been like very. Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it has been fun.
Yeah.
Like, doing and hosting a show, I mean, even though the topic is
intense,
so traumatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Owning, like, a social media community has been fun, for sure. Especially doing it with, like, a friend. It is, like, definitely rewarding, too.
For sure.
But
it's not like we're doing like a podcast about like like sex tips or just like celebrity social life.
Yeah.
So I feel like it has been really meaningful for us to have a space dedicated to talking about our grief every week. It's also given us a lot of structure in our week. I think we've been missing out on because we have our episode planning. We have our episode planning and filming days, and then Thursdays, our uploading day. So it really does structure our week, and then it's like, oh yeah, a week is already passed, kind of. Versus before this, it's like every day is the same day. Where it's like we're living in the damn Truman Show. Like you can't tell
oh my God.
What's the day.
The Truman Show really gets me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really interesting being able to talk about these grief topics in like a broader sense, but then being able to relate it back to our own experience.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could talk about everyone's experience and include everyone. But talking specifically about us has kind of helped us analyze our own grief. Because like I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, you have to give time to your grief and understand it and listen to it. And that having this podcast has definitely helped at least think about it and analyze it more. And, we have to go back and revisit those moments in order to talk about them and explain how they felt, and maybe what we wish we had or what we would have changed, or how we would want to be treated. All those things we have to sit and revisit the hardest times of our lives. So in that way, it's extremely difficult, but it is freeing in a way to be able to express something so hard and so vulnerable out loud.
Right. I also think that this podcast has helped me put into words some of the things that I would never be able to put into words before. It has definitely helped me be able to verbalize a lot of these things that I've been bottling in and not really knowing how to explain. But doing the research before the episodes and for the topics has been that's what that is.
For last episode, I always knew what grief brain felt like, but I didn't know what all this was going on. So we're actually researching it and then being able to speak on it in a palatable way, and we've been learning. We're learning a lot too. We're learning alongside everyone who's listening.
Exactly. And then also the second part, how has meeting each other impacted our journey? I mean, it's just helped. I mean, for me, I think for us both, but it really has been the most amazing thing ever. I'm really gonna get emotional thinking about this because this podcast I wouldn't have been able to do without you, and
it would not
never in a million years would I have thought this could happen,
I would never host it alone, that's for sure. I would have never even had the idea of doing it alone.
No, I would never. It would be really weird and crazy to do alone. No, it wouldn't, but it would just be way harder and more difficult, and definitely also just having a friend that I can share all of my grief, all the good, all the bad, and at any time, and we both have this understanding of we both have our own lives too, so it's not we feel pressure to do anything with that. It's just really just having someone that's open to listening in general, you know?
Yeah, like I mentioned, just witnessing the grief and with somebody who understands is so special and honestly rare, because you have your friends that stood by you through the hard times, but you don't have someone who really gets it. But having a friend who really does get it and is in the same mental state as you is honestly really special, because I can talk about my mom in the smallest ways or in the biggest ways, no matter what, whether we're driving in the car, I can just turn off the song really quick and say some random thought that I have about my mom, and it's not weird and nobody's silent, it's just normal, and it is really a level of being 100% real and raw with someone, and it's priceless.
Also, you're the reason why I went to Living with Loss, so that you helped me do that too, is enter a whole community where I was starting to open up about it, which started my whole grief journey, honestly. So you've been a huge impact on my life.
Me too. Aww. I would definitely recommend anyone just search and seek out some friends. I would recommend anyone trying to find any friends who can relate, even if it's an internet friend or someone is just your pen pal or whatever it is, because honestly, you can find I see TikToks of people who go through really similar things as me. They come up on my For You page, of course, because the damn algorithm. But just reach out and having just these real conversations with even strangers. I was talking to somebody through Instagram DMs who went through something really similar as me, and I don't know this person and this person doesn't know me, but we were able to have such an open and honest conversation. We were telling each other some deep secrets, and it's so special, and it's heartbreaking that we relate to these random people across the country, across the world, through these devastating events, but again, it's human connection, and it's priceless. Exactly.
And also the last part of this question is any other new friends from this, and definitely having something like this changes your whole view on life and your priorities and everything, and definitely having this terrible thing happen can be you have a common enemy with some people, and then that starts a friendship because you guys can have like that common enemy to hate on. Like when you both hate your work, you're like, you know what I mean? You both hate your boss, so you can keep talking shit about the boss together, and like you have a friendship over that. So it's kind of like that. You have like a mutual common ground that you guys can start a friendship on. And yeah, of course it's like a terrible circumstance to start a new friendship on, but yeah, that is one of the good things that can come out of it, is that you can make new friends that understand this feeling or this experience on a much deeper level than some of your old previous friends that you already have.
I think you said that perfectly. Like, there is new friends that are going to come about this experience, because I always call it a life-altering experience. And it is. You're on one path, and then that path is all of a sudden blown up, and you have to go on this whole other path, and it's new, and you didn't want it, and you didn't want to be on this path. But it's inevitable that there's going to be new people coming into your life, new friends, and it's hard to accept at first because you, again, didn't ask to go on this new path. And you were happy on the path you were on, Yeah.
And you kind of look back at that old path and you're like, damn, that path looks good right now.
And of course, I really do and did miss, the life before, because I was way more, I guess, I don't know, I was just less sad.
Yeah.
And I miss that, but this new path has brought a lot of new things and a lot of moments of clarity. I would trade it all in to have my mom back, but that's not the reality.
Yeah.
So there's really only accepting and trying to embrace the new path that we're on.
Exactly.
And that includes the new friends, and the new friends have been like amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, between like me and you, we do have like a lot of things that were similar. Like, even though our stories weren't the same, like we had just like these random things that kind of brought us together in the beginning. Like they both of our parents died like at the same age.
Born the same year, died the same year.
Yes. They also
died in our birth month.
Yeah, died in our birth month, which was, God, horrible.
Yeah, terrible. Also, we both got like tattoos in their handwriting in the exact same place on our arm.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Before we even met. And then when we met, I was like, yeah, I have this one. And she was like, oh my God, I have one in the exact same place.
Yeah, and it's in his handwriting too. And then both of our dogs also, we both had terriers. I had a Yorkshire Terrier, and she had like a terrier mix. And they both passed away too in the same way that our parents did. My dog passed from cancer, and then her dog passed in a car accident too. So it's just like these weird similarities that we had that we were able to bond over.
Yeah, like we were already bonding over our mental states and grief, and then these smaller things just kind of make it seem, like fate.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sweet. But yeah, I think that was a good answer to all of those things.
Yeah, so the next question is from someone who, should I read the whole question?
Oh yeah, I'll just kind of overview it. So this person wrote in who lost her dad, and she said that she's in her junior year of college, she's 20 years old, and that she also was struggling to find a community. Because obviously at 20 years old, it's not often that you find other people who have lost a parent,
right.
At this time. So she wrote, if you guys could talk about how to navigate grief in your early 20s, especially since it's a very unique situation. It is a unique situation. Yeah. It's so difficult because you never think that this is going to happen to you. Like, you kind of have this sense growing up that, okay, first you lose your grandparents.
Yeah.
And then eventually when you're older and maybe have your own family is when you kind of prepare that your parent is eventually going to die.
Right.
When you're in college, on your own and you're just navigating your new chapter in your life, like, you don't expect your parent to pass away at that time.
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't know if there's like this wasn't really a question. She just asked us to talk about it. But
yeah,
navigating grief is really just listening to your own intuition and to your own, like, what you need. Sometimes you may need to block it out and scroll on TikTok for 3 hours. Sometimes you need to listen to your body and just be like, I'm begging to get out of the house right now. Or
Need to
sleeping.
lay down.
Yeah, like need to take a break from school or work or like. And again, you have to reach out to other people who understand, because grief is the loneliest, most isolating experience, and nobody's gonna come and save you. Like, you have to reach out, and like if there's nobody in your life that you feel like you can, like, I would say literally go reach out to random strangers on the internet, because I'm a part of so many Facebook groups and, like I said, random people on TikTok, Instagram. Like, I just be adding everybody because like there's so many, and it really does make you feel less alone.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part, is like, really no one is going to know how to be there for you, because it's a really hard thing to maneuver for yourself and for others. So I think being vocal about what you need, I mean, even though we talked about how initially it's really hard to like delegate these tasks to people, but eventually, once that time subsides, just like reaching out and to people who might understand, just like saying like, hey, like, I really fucking miss this person. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I always say, like, navigating grief, you have to be so vulnerable and open.
Yeah.
Like, you can't openly express your grief without being super raw. And like,
exposed.
if you have people in your life, like, let's say your college friends, because this person who wrote this question was in college, if your college friends, like, can't witness that, I mean, that's pretty normal, because college friends, like, a lot of the time are just for
surface level, like going out,
yeah,
doing
we're
fun
going
things.
out, we're having fun. I mean, if these are your lifelong friends, obviously that's a different story,
right.
But you need to have people who you can literally sit down with and just say everything to.
Yeah, because that's what a true friend is someone who's willing to sit with you and hear these nasty, deep, dark thoughts that you have, and that's what comes with, because that's what comes with grief. And not saying that these people, you can't have friends that are just for the surface level or just to do fun things. It's great to have a mix, I think, but ultimately it is really, really important for healing to have people you feel safe opening up about these things with, because it is a lot of weight to carry alone, and no one should have to do that. No one should have to carry that shit alone.
Another thing is that, and we talked about this, I think a couple of days ago, just while we were conversating, that in your 20s, you already are in a chapter where you're trying to figure out your life and what is right and what is wrong for you.
Right.
And that includes, and honestly, number one on the list is the people in your life. The people in your life who you surround yourself with, whether it's your significant others or your friends. And your 20s, and especially college age, is like the number one time for that. So when grief happens at that time, you're really counting on these people who you are around, and you're counting on your friends, and a lot of the times they're not showing up for you, or they're kind of showing that they aren't that kind of friend that you can rely on.
Yeah.
And like you said, not every friend that you have is going to be able to be your best friend and show up 100%. But with that comes you having a responsibility to recognize that you may have those friends and you still value them for what they are, but like there is a level of separation between the friends that maybe you go out with and go to the bars with, and then a friend who maybe you can do that too with, but also you can be 100% real with them.
Right.
And like, you do need that friend. You need that friend. You can't just have, the friends that you go out with, because a lot of the times they're not going to be that friend who you're being vulnerable with.
Yeah.
If you can have both in the same person, amazing.
That's amazing, yeah.
But if you have, two separate groups or whatever it is, like, you're figuring out your friends, you're figuring out who you want to be in your life. And for me, like, in my experience, I was shocked that the friends that I had at the time of the loss were not the friends that were going to be there for me. Right. I was shocked, and I was grieving those friendships that I had lost too. So this is a big part of losing someone in your 20s, because it's such a changing chapter in your life.
It changes your perspective on everything.
Exactly. So you're already changing and navigating, and then grief happens, and then you're changing and navigating at a higher level now.
Right.
And you're trying to answer these questions of life questions.
Yeah.
And, everyone's doing that in their 20s. So you're just learning so much. And honestly, that makes it even harder. You're learning how to set boundaries with yourself, with people, with significant others. And at the end of the day, you just need to be making decisions based on you and, you know, what's better for you and yourself and your life.
That was really well said. And I was really talking to my friend recently, too, about that, about how initially after the loss, it was really, really hard for me to hang out with anyone that wasn't going to be there for me 100%. Like, I couldn't just hang at the surface level. I was way past the surface level. So any of my friends that wanted it, or that I had that just wanted, that I felt that I could only remain at the surface level, I kind of really iced them out for a little while, just because it was not something I was able to do. You know, I couldn't go out to the bars and not talk about it without, or like not think about it and have a good time, just like, you know what I mean? I just couldn't do it. It 100%. Really was a lot. So I think it does take time for you to be able to incorporate these levels of relationships back into your life. But I think it's important to have a range after a while. Like, you know, for me, I did ice these people out for a little while, but then eventually I was able to like, hit them up because I wanted to just like have a good time. But, you know, it took a lot of time to get there. And that's just all I'm saying is that it's going to take time for you to, and I'm not saying, the point of what I'm trying to say is just because you feel like you can't be 100% yourself doesn't mean they might not be your friend forever and you have to cut them off forever. You know, if that's what you have to do for now, that's fine. You should do that because you should respect your boundaries and what you want to do and everything like that. But ultimately, like, if you come to a time where you feel like you can do that and you can have a surface level, like, interaction and, like, just go out and have a good time, then I don't think you should feel guilty, and I think you should go ahead and do that. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's really just placing the boundaries for yourself and kind of going into it. Like, in the beginning, I was kind of making that mistake where I would hang out with these friends thinking that I was going to get a vulnerable reaction, and I wasn't, and then I was, like, really heartbroken after, and then I was like, I can't have these people in my life. And then that's when I was around the time making the decisions of who I want in my life, and, you know, I'm not going to, like, start crossing out all these people and, you know, making a burn book of all these people, no. But for me, it was making the decisions, okay, if I do hang out with these people, it's going to be under these specific circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, I would say, after I made all those decisions, I have my handful of people who I do everything with, and then, of course, you have your you know, layers of friends, and, like, that's totally normal.
Yeah. But it definitely takes time to maneuver and figure out where everybody stands.
You have to figure out. Trust me, we're talking about it with clarity now. But this is, you know, almost a year and more than a year after. You know, it took so much time, and I still am trying to figure out all these boundaries and layers. So it just takes time. But honestly, you just have to listen to yourself, and at the end of the day, how you feel around people. Like, how do you feel
exhausted after hanging out with them? Because that's probably a bad sign of. Not a bad sign, but that's probably a sign that you're not your authentic self. You're putting up a mask, or you're working too hard to be
someone
fitting
else,
into fitting into how they want you in their life.
Yeah, and you deserve to be vulnerable. Like, you deserve to just be yourself, and you deserve to not wear the mask. Like, if you need to go cry, like, you should have that friend who can witness that, and then 5 minutes later go take shots at the bar. Like, you deserve that 100%, and you deserve nothing less than that.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, we do. It's definitely not easy to maneuver. So
we get it. Yeah, damn, losing
it's fucking terrible
in your 20s. It really is. I mean, oh my god.
Yeah, and I guess we already answered.
And not to mention you're grieving
question.
Sorry.
Oh no.
But the part of the question, like, being in your 20s, like, another big part of it is grieving all the future that you were supposed to have with them. Right. You know. Because some people maybe got to see their wedding or got to see their kids and meet their kids and stuff. But, like, all those things in your 20s, you probably missed a lot. Your loved one is probably missing a lot of big milestones.
Oh yeah, because your 20s is like one of the most life-changing years. Like, you graduate college, you get a job, you fucking move into a house,
first apartment,
all these random
all your
things.
New friends, new significant others, all those big milestones and small milestones. I always mention the big milestones, but honestly, sometimes it's more about the small moments.
Yeah, it's the small moments too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just all the moments.
Yeah. God, I mean, I could talk about this question because it's literally just my life. Exactly, you know, all of that stuff.
Also, this kind of definitely answers the next question,
yeah.
which is, how does grief affect your social life? And we definitely mentioned...
We definitely just covered that, yeah.
So we're going to move on.
But also, you just kind of don't... I think you don't want to, like, go out. Like, in the beginning, I was like, ugh, I don't want to go out anywhere. I don't want to do anything. Like, definitely isolating myself more, like, socially.
Yeah.
You have a way lowered social battery.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like,
I could do, like, one thing.
One social event a week, you know, with a group of people. Otherwise, it has to be, like, 2 people, and they're, like, my closest friends.
Right.
So, again, everything changes with your social life and whatever you have social battery for.
And don't feel guilty about it. Mm-hmm. Don't feel like you have to do certain things. Like, I remember I went back to New York in July. That was, 5 months after my loss, and there was, like, this club event. It was, like, DJ Pauly D. And just thinking about it, I was crying. Thinking about going. And my best friend was like, we don't have to go if you don't want to go. And instantly when she said that, I was like, really?
Thank God.
And then I started smiling and everything was good again. But, like, I really was, like, getting down on myself because, one, I was imagining myself just crying in the club, like, me not really wanting to be in the club. And then just, like, feeling like I had to because I already agreed to these plans. No. You can bail out of plans if you feel like you can't handle it. Don't feel guilty about that shit at all because you're going to be suffering at the end of the night when you're the one crying in the club.
Yeah, honestly, like, I definitely learned that sometimes it's better. Like, I did feel guilty sometimes because I'm always saying no to plans. But, like, then I end up being, crying and wanting to leave, and then I end up feeling even worse because I'm crying and wanting to leave, and everyone's trying to have a good time. So, honestly, I definitely learned the hard way, like, just don't go sometimes. Honestly, like, if you really don't want to go, who cares? Like, really, just don't go.
Yeah, and your real friends or good friends anyway are gonna be able to understand, and they should be able to understand that sometimes you're just not in the fucking mood, and that is, like, fine. So just leave it at that, and don't be too hard on yourself to try to jump back into being a regular person, doing all these things that everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Because not everybody else is grieving a terrible loss like you know?
Exactly, yeah. So overall, your social life is just flipped upside down. Everything's different. Your tolerance is just lower, and just choose what's best for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you don't owe anyone anything, honestly.
Yeah.
Next question. So this question specifically asks about how it affects not your friends, but your partners, your romantic partners.
Okay.
Which, I think we're gonna save that for another episode because
it is a whole thing.
So much to talk about, and at the end of the day, it's more like that's analyzing a romantic relationship. So there's so much intricacies about that,
right?
And it really just depends on the relationship,
for sure.
But I mean,
every relationship is different, for sure.
Yeah, but I will say, just for now, like, my mom used to say, whenever maybe I would come to her about something, and she would say, oh, one of the hardest things a relationship can go through is when that person loses a parent. Like, I don't know
she said that?
Yeah, she literally said that. She used to say that.
Oh my God.
I just remember the direct quote. I don't remember the context, but she would say, just wait until someone loses a parent, like, then that's when really the relationship is tested. And she said that, like, a good couple times throughout my life. So much so where I remember it.
Right.
Honestly, don't know the context. I wish I did.
Yeah.
But she did say that, and, like, that's probably one of the biggest tests, quote unquote tests, a relationship can go through. So
yeah,
it is a really serious thing, and at the end of the day, it really just depends on
the relationship.
So many things, the relationship, but also, like, the loss itself. I mean, it just depends on everything.
Yeah, there's so many circumstances. But also, just as a brief overall thing that we've mentioned many, many times, is that when something like that happens to you, it changes your perspective on everything, and it kind of brings light to all these things that you maybe didn't care or didn't notice before. So that's just the same that's going to happen in a relationship, is that there's going to be certain things that you brushed over in the relationship that are going to be, like, right directly in your face now, because grief brings these things more into light or whatever, like, it changes your perspective, and that goes for how you feel in a relationship too. It could change the relationship dramatically.
It definitely changes the relationship dramatically, because at the end of the day, the person who experienced a loss, their focus is completely shift off of the relationship.
Yeah.
Like, there's a much less attention going towards the significant other.
Right.
And honestly, inevitably, that partner is going to have to accept that. That, they're kind of taking the back burner for however long. Yeah. And it takes so much communication and just understanding and at the end of the day, this is life altering. Okay, so I'm being 100% changed by this, and if your significant other is like riding with it and they're experiencing the changes that you're going through and they're sticking with that new person that you're becoming, that's when the relationship has the means to work out. But you're changing into a completely different person on your brand new path. And again, in these big life changes, people go separate ways sometimes, and whether they're able to find themselves together, but it's not something light and it's not something easy. You're being changed 100%. So in your partner, they're gonna have to be witnessing it and embracing that new person, and not also supporting you through it. So it's a really that's a big question, but I think this is from the perspective of the significant other witnessing the other person's grief. So at the end of the day, it's very similar to what the episode we made about what to do as a friend. I mean, it's very similar. You just have to stand by the person and validate them and witness it. And at the end of the day, sometimes that person might not have room in their heart for a relationship to continue. And that could be for a million reasons, but really just because their heart is so full of grief and, all the secondary losses and all this other thing. That
it's hard to focus on a relationship and like trying to do these things to make someone else happy when you can barely keep yourself happy.
Pouring from an empty cup. You can't nurture someone else when you're barely surviving every minute of every day.
Yeah. So I think it's really good what you said about like kind of noting that you are going to be a little bit on the back burner if you're, like it kind of sucks to say out loud because no one wants to admit that, but it's true. It is because there's so many more important, no offense, like so many more, you know what I mean? Like so much more heavier shit that that person has to deal with now. They can't deal with all this like he said, she said of the relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So totally.
I mean, it's really
that could
difficult.
Be an interesting topic for another.
We'll definitely be diving into it in another episode because there's a lot to be said on just the relationships in general changing with grief and loss.
Yeah. All right. So, final question is actually asked by yours truly. And my question was, what do you think when people compare losing someone in a breakup versus losing someone in a death? And this topic came from our Insta polls.
Yes.
Which I saw a TikTok about basically a breakup, and then somebody had commented losing someone in a breakup is just the same as losing somebody in a death. And I was a little triggered, not gonna lie. Because I just think it's a little unfair of a comparison. And this comment got a lot of likes, and the creator was like, yes, like, this was getting a good amount of attention, which is why I put it on the polls. And our Instagram polls, everyone voted, no, it's not the same, except for one person. And I think to me that shows a lot. Like, everyone is agreeing that it's not the same. But just to say, because I just did want to talk about it a little bit. I know that there are similarities, and grief is open to everyone. It is, you do grieve a breakup. You do grieve a breakup, and you grieve that person who's no longer in your life, or all the things that you had with them that are no longer when you break up. Like, trust me, I get that. I've been through that. But at the end of the day, it is not okay to compare that if you've never lost someone in a heartbreaking, heart-shattering way.
I agree.
If you've never sat at the funeral crying, debilitated, can't breathe, please do not compare your breakup to someone's loss. And I'm honestly just saying this because people do like to say and compare their biggest thing with your biggest thing,
Right.
And it is easy to be like, oh yeah, I was that sad when
No.
And just, again, it's kind of goes back to those things, what you shouldn't say. And comparing breakups or divorces, anything like that, it's just not the same, you guys. And
it's not. That person is literally not just with...
Yeah.
That person is not on the earth anymore. You're not, they're still, when you break up with that person is somewhere still here. They're just not with you.
Them, like...
Yeah, you could still text them and they could still answer. Maybe they won't like the text.
You could meet up and have, like, I get it. I really do, but I get where it's coming from. I do, because I understand that grief is grief, and you're longing for this,
Right, and you're grieving a breakup is grieving that relationship, grieving what once was in a way.
And you still have the same things: guilt, anger, secondary losses.
Period.
Yes, I get it. You have all those things with breakups, but it is so dramatically different.
Same.
I can't call my mom or send her drunk texts or go to her house. Okay, I genuinely can never talk to her again, and I'll have to accept it.
That's not the same for a
It's
breakup,
not
because
the
that
same.
person is still fucking here.
Yeah, I don't
That
care
person
if
is
they
still
blocked
fucking
you
here.
on everything and you have no means of talking to them. Like, if you had something to say and all these things, like, this person is still alive and breathing, and all these things, they didn't drop off the earth. They're still living their new lives, and there's still potential in the future to be able to talk to them or reconnect. Okay, I will never be able to reconnect with my mom.
Right.
And I will never be able to talk to her again. And to say that to somebody or to try and compare the two is so invalidating.
Yeah, and so heartbreaking, because it's just not the same at all. As someone who's experienced both, these two are on totally different dimensions. Yeah, of course, there's some of the similarities, including you're grieving some of the same things, like you're grieving what once was, you have guilt for what you did, blah, 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 blah. All those things might be similar, but death is it is that times 100,000. I can't even, there's no number, because it is way more, way fucking more.
And when people when you're betrayed by your partner or even a friend, those are things that you are grieving, and I've been through it, and it's hurtful when people betray you, or people do certain things to you, and your partner lets you down, or whatever it is, breakups, whether it's a significant other breakup or a friendship breakup, you do grieve it, you do, but not in the same way. I would say, it is way more painful, what I've gone through with my mom, than any breakup that I've ever had.
I could say that confidently with my full chest.
Yes, exactly. There was no doubt in my mind. But honestly, I just want to touch on that, because that was a little thing that was in the back of my head all week. But I mean, I think
that's what we talked about in Euphoria, when Rue said what's a bigger feeling than love, and they said loss, and people are retweeting that about losing someone in a breakup, but no, she's literally talking about losing her dad.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because everyone's talking about that love and loss quote, and they're about a breakup. I'm she's literally talking about her dead dad. That's literally a part of the show. That's literally the main part of the show.
Yeah, that's literally not about a breakup. Don't fucking interpret it that lightly as a fucking breakup quote, just because that's the only way that applies into your life.
That's another thing, being in your 20s, because that's all those 20s in your 20s, that's the show that they're watching, everyone. Euphoria. That's the worst. Everyone in their 20s is watching Euphoria, so everyone is thinking, oh, it's about a breakup, because that's what we related to, because nobody in their 20s lost a parent.
Yeah.
So everyone's thinking of it as a breakup, but of course there's those select sad few like us who are knowing that it's actually about losing a parent.
Yeah, of course it's about her fucking dad. What? That's whatever.
Y'all not paying attention. You're not paying attention to the show.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's everything. That wraps it up for this episode. Thanks for sitting with us. Thanks for vibing. I had to cut that out. Thanks for vibing. All right, guys. So I think that wraps things up for this episode. Say bye to Max. He might be back in a future episode. Give us a thumbs up if you like Max. Thanks for sitting with us and getting to know us a little bit better with these questions that we answered today.
Thank you to everyone who wrote in. That honestly was really fun.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely do another one in a while. So go join our group that we created.
Right.
Link will be down below, or
go,
wherever it is.
Go like our page. Go on our Instagram. Support us there. Go subscribe to our channel. Go everywhere where we are and follow us. Hit the like button. Do it all.
Oh my god, we sound like real YouTubers.
Yeah. Just do it.
And also don't forget that we do have a new series on our Instagram called Feature Your Loved One.
Exactly.
Link is in our link tree on our Instagram and also in our bios. You can send in photos of your loved one and we'll be featuring them on our Instagram, and you create a little caption for it. And we're so excited. We've already gotten a good amount of responses in them, and they're so beautiful.
So beautiful to read, and it's really heartwarming and also heartbreaking to read.
Exactly.
But yeah, thanks for sitting with us, guys, and we'll be back next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.